If you've ever left a meeting and thought, what the fuck just happened? It's probably because there was some tension during that meeting. And I want to help you illustrate what the fuck it is that you were feeling so that the next time that happens, you're able to speak up in the moment because you already have a sense that something is not quite right. My name is Petra Vega, and I'm an anti-oppressive leadership coach who helps marginalized nonprofit managers and directors speak up in crucial moments in meetings, like during conflict, even when self-doubt may be getting in the way. Today, I'm going to be talking about what are the three most common conflicts I see in nonprofit meetings, which are around responsibility, around relational issues, and around resources. And exactly what you can do to speak up in the moment so that you can stop replaying that meeting with all the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, because you're probably ruminating, and that we could use our life force in a different way. And you might even be leaving with a little regret from that meeting. So we can try to prevent all of that is what my hope is in this video. If you want to get started as you're watching, I highly suggest that you grab my nonprofit disruptor survival toolkit. It's in the description link below. In it, I share 5 tips to speak up in the meeting without all the second guessing, so that you can start getting your liberatory ideas heard and implemented. Okay. So let's start out with the first common conflict issue that I see in meetings around responsibility, which this one is really about who's supposed to do what. Okay, so this is like when someone drops the ball, maybe someone is assigned to do something and they don't do that thing. Maybe someone delays the timeline. Maybe it's taking them a little bit longer than they had expected. Maybe someone is out because people get sick or people are tired or people have a variety of other reasons to not be at work that day. And so that their part of the work doesn't get done. Maybe someone is incompetent, maybe just someone can't do the thing. Or maybe someone makes a mistake. Maybe they try really, really hard and they still can't get it quite right. So, in those moments when you might be thinking, if any of those things happen, this is a responsibility issue. And here's what I suggest you do. One, I want you to think about, is this a skill or a will issue? This is something that my first supervisor out of grad school taught me to really think about as I was working with parent coordinators at a campus of middle schools where I was really focused on parent engagement and community engagement. And he suggested, he's like, think about, okay, do people have the skill to do the thing that you're asking of them? And the skill is in relation to, do they have the ability or the capacity, right? Are they trained in this thing? Have you seen evidence of their ability to do whatever you're asking of them? Have you seen them do this before? Right. So, okay, if you're like, oh no, this is a new thing that they're trying to do, maybe they're like, I really want to try to challenge myself to develop my skills. There might be a skill issue here. And that's why we have this issue within responsibility. So that's one piece to kind of assess for. And then the other piece is a will issue, right? All of us have 37 goddamn bullets in our job description. And many of us probably don't be doing all of those, right? Maybe because of a skill issue, maybe we don't know how, or maybe a will issue, we just don't want to. So I think that I would suggest that is the first place that you start when you're thinking about, okay, this is a responsibility issue. What do I do about it? Because the goal that we want to do here is to really clarify what are the roles and expectations. And where needed, we might have some consequences, right? And so depending on what the issue or incident is, right? What's the responsibility misstep that this person has done? What might be the consequences of that, right? And I just want to kind of offer, right, that every action, whether we take action or inaction, has a consequence, right? That is just the way of life. And I think those of us that have, abolitionist, non-punishment values may have a really difficult relationship with kind of thinking about consequences. But I want us to learn discernment between punishment and consequence, right? So that's the first one around responsibility. If you have any questions about that or want me to, I'd love to, please comment below. The second common around conflict that I see is relational, right? This one is all about how do you manage all the different personalities, the different values, the different work styles. This one is some signs that this might be a relational issue is if there is some beef happening during your meeting and you can see that one person is maybe more of a direct, straight up communicator. And another person is a little bit more indirect. Maybe they're a little bit ambiguous in their communication. Or maybe I'm thinking about like during a previous job, one of my supervisor really valued harmony. And I really value authenticity, right? And what are the ways that different values can be at odds, right? Like we are all at these nonprofits because we share a collective mission and vision. There's alignment with the work that we're doing, but individually as people, we're also going to have some differences in that, right? So there might be some value differences that you're seeing, or maybe you can sense, and kind of teasing that out. There also might be a difference around maybe working styles, right? That's like maybe there's one person who really prefers to work alone, and there's other people who really need the social interaction in order to do good work. There's a conflict there, potentially. And so here, and as I mentioned before, ideally, as coworkers, if we think about this issue around values, we're working at the different place, but even the ways that we are working at the same place, and even if we have the same value, we express that could be really different, right? And so, I want to just invite us to understand that like that difference adds like depth and nuance in some moments, and sometimes that difference creates distance and makes friction, right? Maybe that's what's resulting in the conflict that you're having in your meetings. And so here's some things that I want you to kind of think about um, when you see that conflict happening in your meetings. I want you to think about, okay, is this a one-to-one conversation? Does this feel like, okay, if there's conflict happening between these two people during the meeting, is this something that I should separate them and speak to them offline about? Or does this feel like something that you might want to mediate in between both of them, right? And maybe you might want to try the one-on-one conversation to share like, hey, I kind of sense a little bit of energy here. Could you tell me more about that? Am I off base? Like paint me a picture. And then depending on where people are in terms of like whether they agree with your assessment around the conflict, and whether they're interested in having some support in that, we might want to have some mediation. And so I want to kind of share here an experience where I navigated this, where in a previous role, I've been supervising social work students for a super long time. And in one of the jobs that I was doing that work in, one of my Dominican interns was really beefing with one of my white interns because of the ways that this white intern's whiteness would show up in the space. And so that often looked like not pulling their weight. Often they seemed a little bit more closed off. Again, this is like a working styles thing. And then I think the students' own preconceived notions around whiteness, right, that is based in their lived experience, really informed how they related to the student. And I was running the type of ship where a collaboration was expected, clear and kind communication was expectation. So of course, this was like a conflict between them and a conflict for me, because that's not the kind of workplace environment that I wanted to cultivate. And so, I had one-on-one conversations with both of them, and what I came to decide in terms of how to move forward with this conflict or try to address it. I took into consideration that my Dominican student was not interested in mediation. And at the time, I had a really strong relationship with this white intern. And given this white intern's willingness to really interrogate her whiteness, to really think about the ways that she had showed up that wasn't as anti-oppressive as she would like of, we decided to, have those one-on-one offline conversations to see what each of them needed in order to do their best work. And then I ran through these plans with each of them, right? And kind of shared about like, okay, here's some commitments from each person so that we can still be collaborative. We can engage in kind and clear communication. And that worked out, like it was more so that folks wanted to be heard, having a space to kind of air those things out. It helps when one person is willing to adjust given their own values around, justice and equity. So all of those things are something to consider. And the goal here, when you're thinking about relational issues, is that, right, is to really make people feel seen and heard through those differences, so that those differences don't derail from the larger focus of the mission and vision of the organization, right? And, bonus points for you if you're able to help people feel stretched and grow in that experience, right? I grew a lot from that experience. Both of those students grew a lot from that experience, as I was told later on. And so I think, again, conflict is an opportunity for us to stretch. I think sometimes we think about conflict as a problem, where I think conflict can really get us even closer, even deeper to the kind of work that we want to be doing, to the way in which the kind of world that we want to be doing. So, just an invitation to see that as an opportunity. Fundamentally, this teaching for me really is rooted into this idea that I have around. I believe if the people are not well, then the work won't be well either, right? So how people really feel is really important. It just fucking is. It's just important. Okay. So I'd love to hear in the chat or in the comment section, which of these conflicts have you experienced in meetings, right? Are you familiar with conflicts related to relational issues, related to responsibility issues? Please let me know. I'm very curious to see what you're experiencing. The third and final most common conflict type that I see in meetings is around resources, right? This one is about, do we have enough time, enough money, and enough like skills Do we have enough people to do the work in order to reach our goals? This might look like maybe someone has not scoped a project at the right pace. And now shit is taking much longer than expected. Maybe it's costing much more than this one. Another example of this one is when you lose funding unexpectedly. Um, that has happened a lot this past year. Or maybe it's when you all develop really big, ambitious goals at the top of the year or at the middle of the year, whenever it is that you do your strategic planning. And then you realize, well, fuck, we have all of these big goals. We don't really have the skill set, the people power in order to carry out these goals. What do we do with that? Right. And so I think the goal here is really for us to think about what are some strategies for us to address those resource gaps and setting more realistic priorities at a human's pace and not a robot's pace. I think that we sometimes get really motivated. And, I can respect an idealist, but I think that can really hurt us in the work that we're doing around social change when that's too far, right? Or, the timing isn't quite right. And so there's this, if you're on my Instagram, one of my nonprofit disruptor tips is to think about if you want to get shit done at a human's pace, then scope your projects at a pace that is for disabled, chronically ill parents. Okay. If you don't have any of those people in your life, get someone in your life, do some research online. Shit just takes more time, right? So I encourage you to add more time to plan for delays, right? I'm thinking about those of us that are neurodivergent, that really don't have a good sense of time. Remember who you are as you're creating big, audacious goals. Take breaks think about the times where this might be a big lift for us in this particular part of the project. When might we need a break? Shit, maybe a party. And I'm in a place in my life where I'm like, you might need a meltdown. There might need to be a meltdown. So just consider that in your planning. So yeah, those are the three most common conflicts that I've seen in meetings. Again, responsibility, relational issues, and around resources. Again, if you want support around being able to speak up in the moment, I highly suggest that you grab my nonprofit disruptor survival toolkit. I share 5 tips to speak up in meetings without all the second guessing, so that again, your liberatory ideas, your liberatory vision for the future finally gets heard and implemented at your organization.